Not long ago, there lived a princess named Atalanta who could run as fast as the wind. She was so bright and so clever, and she could build and fix things so wonderfully that many young men wished to marry her.
What shall I do? So many young men want to marry you, and I don't know how to choose.
You don't have to choose, Father. I will choose, and I'm not sure that I will choose to marry anyone at all.
Of course you will. I mean, everyone gets married. It's what people do.
But I intend to go out and see the world. And when I come home, perhaps I will marry, and perhaps I will not.
The king did not like this. He was a very ordinary king, that is. He was powerful and used to having his own way. So he did not answer Atalanta, but simply told her, I have decided how to choose the young man you will marry. I will hold a great race, and the winner, the swiftest, fleetest, and fastest young man of them all, shall win the right to marry.
Now, Atalanta was a very clever girl, as well as a swift runner. She saw that she might win both the argument and the race, provided that she herself could run in the race too. Very well, but you must let me race along with the others. If I am not winner, I will accept the wishes of the young man who is.
The king agreed to this. He was pleased. He would have his way, marry off his daughter, and enjoy a fine day of racing as well. So he directed his messengers to travel all throughout the kingdom, announcing the race and its wonderful prize, the chance to marry the bright Atalanta.
As the day of the race drew near, flags were raised in the streets of town, and banners were hung near the grassy field where the race would be run. Meanwhile, Atalanta herself was preparing for the race. Each day at dawn, she'd go to the field in secret and practice running across it, slowly at first, then fast and faster, until she could run it more quickly than anyone had ever run it before.
As the day of the race grew nearer, young men began to crowd into town. Each was sure he could win the prize, except for one. This was young John, who lived in the town. He watched Atalanta day by day as she bought nails and wood to make a pigeon house, or chose parts for her telescope, or laughed with her friends. Young John saw the princess only from a distance, but near enough to know how bright and clever she was. He wished very much to race with her, to win, and to earn the right to speak with her. For surely, it is not right for Atalanta's father to give her away to the winner of the race. Atalanta herself must choose who she wishes to marry, or if she wishes to marry at all. Still, if I could only win the race, I would be free to speak with Atalanta and ask for her friendship. Each night, after his studies of the stars and the seas, young John went to the field in secret and practiced running across it. Night after night, he ran as swift as the wind across the twilight field until he could cross it quicker than anyone had ever crossed it before.
At last, the day of the race arrived. Trumpets sounded in the early morning, and the young men gathered at the edge of the field, along with Atalanta herself, the prize they sought. The king and his friends sat in soft chairs, and the townspeople stood along the course.
Good day. Good luck. Goodbye. I must tell you farewell. Tomorrow, you will be married.
I'm not so sure of that, Father. She laughed as she looked up and down the line of young men. Not one of them can win the race, for I will run as fast as the wind and leave them all behind. And now a bugle sounded, a flag was dropped, and the runners were off. The crowds cheered. As the young men and Atalanta began to race across the field. As they neared the halfway point, one young man put on a great burst of speed and pulled ahead for an instant, but then gasped and fell back. Atalanta shot on. Soon another young man, tense with effort, drew near to Atalanta. He reached out as though to touch her sleeve, stumbled for an instant, and lost speed.
But then another young man drew near. This was young John, running as fast and swift as Atalanta herself. Atalanta felt his closeness, and in a sudden burst, dashed ahead. Young John might have given up with this, but he never stopped running. Nothing at all, thought he, will keep you from winning the chance to speak with Atalanta. And he ran on, and though he ran as her equal,
Side by side with her, toward the golden ribbon that marked the race's end. Atalanta raced even faster to pull ahead, but young John was a strong match for her. Smiling with the pleasure of the race, young John and Atalanta reached the finish line together, and together they broke through the golden ribbon.
Trumpets blew, the crowd shouted and leapt about. Who is that young man?
It's young John from the town!
Very well, young John. You have not won the race, but you have come closer to winning than any man here. So I give you the prize that you came for, the right to marry my daughter.
Thank you, sir, but I could not possibly possibly marry your daughter unless she wished to marry me. I have run this race with a chance to speak with Atalanta, and if she is willing, I am ready to claim my prize.
And I could not possibly marry before I've seen the world, but I would like nothing better than to spend the afternoon with you. Then the two of them sat and talked in the grassy field as the crowds went away. They ate bread and cheese and purple plums, and Atalanta told young John about her telescopes and her pigeons.
And John told Atalanta about his clothes and his studies of geography. At the end of the day, they were friends. On the next day, John set off to discover new lands.
And Atalanta set off to visit the great cities. By this time, each of them has had wonderful adventures and seen marvelous sights. Perhaps someday they will be married, and perhaps they will not. In any case, it is certain that they are both living happily ever after.